All right, everyone, welcome to another video. I wanted to just talk about I guess, kind of my final thoughts in some of the videos that I've been doing as it relates to Trans Jamaica. Now, some persons probably like, well, Jermaine, you probably did, a whole bunch of videos on Trans Jamaica in the last month. And that is true because the offer for sale was a big deal. And so it really shifted my overall perspective on Trans Jamaica and what it means for my personal outlook for the company. And then, of course, just looking to see now how this fits in for me, right? Because I had a particular outlook. Now, I've heard in previous years that the government had planned to sell their stake, but of course, thinking about all the things that related to it, I've had the time to kind of process those thoughts. And we actually did in our monthly coaching program, monthly challenge program last Saturday, we did a whole thesis, right? So we went through the steps to create a level 2 thesis for our company, and we broke it down. I wish you guys were in it, but if those who are watching it in the challenge, I know you had a great time on Saturday because we're still talking about it. Um, but I'm thinking now that with everything that has happened, and I'll tell you kind of where I'm coming from, right? So the history with Trans Jamaica for me, and I'll share that very briefly for those who may not know. So I used the margin to buy Trans Jamaica in 2020, right? Placed my order before the pandemic, I believe. It was the same month, or it was coming up. I don't remember when exactly in March, right? But the pandemic was March 2020. And so I used margin to purchase. And so of course, naturally when IPO was listed, the price went down because of course the pandemic, the uncertainty. And so here I am purchasing this stock with margin. And if you don't know what margin is when you take credit from the broker. So I took credit from the broker, and I had these 500,000 Trans Jamaica shares that I started out with. And so, every month would pass, price not going anywhere, and I'm having to pay kind of interest on my margin or fees on my margin every month, right? Then at about 5 to 6 months in, I don't remember what the price was. And I started to feel the pinch of having to pay for the margin every month, because when you have margin, if you're not getting in income or cap gains, you're pretty much having that expense. So you have to do the math with margin to see if you'll have upside to cover margin, right? If hopefully that makes sense, but you pay a fee every month. So I don't remember what my fee was exactly, but I was paying like $8 or $9,000 per month to own the shares. While the shares were down, they hadn't paid their first dividend yet. I think they listed in April, and then so you had May, June, July, August. I think they paid the first dividend October, November that year. So I had it for a while before I got a dividend. And so I decided to sell, I think, after the dividend was paid, because I was like, this is not going anywhere. And so I need to maybe rethink what I'm doing. So I sold it because I wanted to stop paying the margin fee. And, I sold it at a loss naturally. And, this was 2020 going into 2021. I was not a shareholder for most of 2021, right? Because I had sold it and I was like, I just sold. I don't know if I want to rebuy. I don't really see the thesis for the outlook changing for a while. And I just realized that I've thrown around the word thesis. You may not know what it means. A thesis is essentially your reason for your investment decision. So your thesis is your why, right? So I buy this stock because of XYZ, or I will not buy this stock because of XYZ, right? And so I I didn't really see much that was happening with them in that time for 2021. Now, December, January 2022, I did a Stocks to Watch episode, and I had TransJamaica as my stock to watch for January 2022. And the thesis that I saw, or the thesis that I came up with at the time, was that would have been in the pandemic for a year and a half. And so I was seeing companies just reporting losses left, right, and center. The financial stocks were not doing well. That's when I sold most of my financial stocks. That was 2021. I sold my NCB, I sold my JMMB, I sold, I don't remember how much stocks I had. I probably should try and check that out, but I sold most of them. I think I sold NCB for 150 or somewhere around there. And my average price was 180. So I did take a loss when I sold. And, I started to really look at what was happening for the climate. And I see the comments in a story time. Yeah, I have nothing planned, honestly. So we don't know where the stream is gonna go tonight. We could talk about anything, all right? But we'll see. You may want to get your popcorn for sure, right? But I'm going somewhere, I promise. So I in 2022 I had, don't remember how much I bought, but I think I replaced my 500,000 units, and I think at the time I bought at I think $1.20. And I was there, and I remember buying it, talking about it. Persons were, saying things like, what about their debt? What about their ability to generate revenues? At the time, we were still, I think the lockdowns ended 2022, if I'm not mistaken, like March in 2022. But traffic was relatively slow, and so persons had concerns would they be able to generate enough revenues, XYZ. But what one of the main things I saw then, and that made me bullish on them at the time, was that they were I saw where there were signs that they would be able to pay um, a reasonable dividend, right? And this was based on my purchase price at the time, which was 120. I think about maybe 300,000 units or something like that, at the 120. And so um, I'm looking at that, looking at the climate. I think around the time NCB wasn't paying a dividend, some of the companies who persons were knowing to pay dividend were saying they're going to hold off on dividends for a while. And dividends were a focus for a lot of companies. A lot of companies were reporting losses. A lot of companies were, speaking of, logistics and supply chain issues. I think 2022 was when we saw the run up, the massive run up for Fesco that had brought them to the 849 at the time. And so there was this surge in oil prices, I believe, for that year. And that, coincided with what we saw for Fesco. And that went really well for them. And then an article came out about them being overpriced. I think the PE went to like 100, and then that went all the way down, right? Um, and so it it seemed like it made sense. It was a simple thing. Dividends were going to be at a premium, and it was fairly liquid at the time, right? So Wigton and TransJamaica were, to me, the two most liquid stocks on the market, at least. I think Wigton would have done its run up to $1.15 and went back down already. So I think in 2022, and I need to double check this, but I remember Wigton was down for a while, right? I remember Wigton going below IPO price at one point, and um, and then just kind of looking to see if I was right. Because when you create a thesis for a company, you're not sure if you're right. Time will tell, and I say this to the challenge community members. Time will tell you if you're right. You can't predict the future. You have the basis for which you can make certain decisions, but time will tell you if you're right. Just like time will tell me if I'm right for Dolphin Cove, which most of you know that I'm a shareholder for currently. Um, I'm also a shareholder for one company I'm not ready to reveal yet, um, because I'm thinking that it's going to do well in the short term. And I feel like when I share my short term positions, persons can sometimes um, make me feel stressed out by how they trade it, right? So I try not to share my short term positions too much, at the very least until I've realized a certain amount of profit. Now, I do share my dividend stocks because I'm not likely to sell my dividend stocks in the short term. So that's why I can talk about TransJamaica, talk about Dolphin Cove, stocks like that, because regardless of the price, if the dividend is there, then I'm not too worried about it. And if the price fluctuates, that's okay, right? I'm not sweating that either. Um, but any stock that I'm investing for capital gains, I'd rather play that a little bit more cautiously, because we'll see how that goes, right? I say, I say, JLB saying, you know what my short term stock is. Okay, all the best with that. You said the dividends will be close to 5 mil. I did not say that, Shells. When did I say 5 mil? Um, when did I say that? Did I speak out of turn? Because I saw some tweet about 500,000 dividends, and I don't know if it was directed at me or not. Did I say that by accident? Um, am I getting a 500,000 dividends? Now Shell's making me calculate. Um, this is the time my son wakes up. I did say that. Wow. I need to edit that video. It's see, I was going to correct it, but no. All right, let's work with that figure. Let's work with okay, I mean that's no big deal. That's fine. Um it's neither here nor there. It's okay. Um so they have 2 mil. Okay, yeah, those numbers are relevant for sure. I will say though that I do have. You see, guys, you always get me in this. I was just gonna to rectify. Um, so listen, I'm trying to figure if I'll need to. You guys are gonna see me feeding my son on on the stream. If he starts crying, I'm gonna have to feed him. Um, so, oh boy. I'm watching him, guys. Hold on, give me 1 sec. I'll take some questions. If you guys have any questions, let me take those. I have to pause the story. I'm sorry. Um, yeah. Let me ask Renee if she wants to if she wants to take him. 1 second, guys. All right. Kayla wants to feed him. We understand, guys. Like this is not what I expected to do. No, so my son does have his investment account. Um, and so I'm gonna have to feed my son on stream. I'm gonna edit this out, guys. I'm gonna edit this out. Okay. All right, sir. Here you go, sir. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that, but you shouldn't be seeing much of him. Here you go, sir. All right. So um This was not planned. I did figure that he'd be waking up soon. So you shouldn't be seeing his face. I don't know. So where was I? I don't even know. Let me know where I was. But I would say that okay, so I was talking about 2022 and um I'd say um ready for him? Okay. All right, one sec. Okay. One sec guys. We're all right. Sorry about that. All right. That seriously, Shells? That's not true. I just didn't want to show his face. Come on, come on, come on. I'm okay. I'm only okay. I'm only okay. I'm only okay. All right. So I'm just laughing because I'm getting WhatsApp messages too. So um yeah, but so here's the thing, guys. As I said, the reason so I personally have no issue with saying what my dividends are. Um I mean, it's not like somebody can hold me up and take the funds from my investment account. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But I don't share it personally because I don't want somebody to feel like um, I'm boasting or bragging or anything like that. But um, so yeah, so I'm not a fan of that shells at all. And yes, Kayla Moore, I did say that. So um, yeah, if you're not worried about my dividends, maybe you'll get some of that info, right? But I'll pivot there for a second. Do say that my wife and I, Renee, we are foster care ambassadors, and so we actually go into churches and anywhere that will pretty much take us to talk about adoption and foster care. And so it's something that we're very passionate about. Our son, that most of you probably know, is 4 years old. He's been with us for 3 years, and he's our foster child. Um, and that's all I can say for now. That's all I can say for now. All right. Congrats, JLP for Jamaica. Children are very interesting, is what I'd say, because um, my sons have made me invest differently. I don't think I'm less aggressive or anything like that, but I'm certainly less. Um, I'm less indecisive actually because since when I have to think about, for example, how I invest for my son, for his investment account, I have to really think long term for him. And when I think about Renee's account, because Renee and I invest together. We have some joint accounts, but we also have some separate accounts. And a story about TransJamaica as well. Her mom, who passed away last year, got some money. She was actually she got some money, and Renee convinced her to invest that money. And then, of course, she asked Renee what to buy. Renee asked me what to buy. I was like, it's obvious. And so she bought um, some Trans Jamaica shares for her mom last year, March, I think. And so, of course, she was on that account with her mom. And so, when her mom passed, she pretty much was able to inherit those shares. And so, we have that, awesome story of her mom being able to pretty much pass on that to her in terms of investments and um so yeah. Oh, Aline, okay, okay. Because I was like, I haven't seen you in a minute, right? Um, exactly. So for Jelly Bean, he has his investment account now for 3 years. We had we had some junior market companies on it. They were not performing well in 3 years, so we rebalanced, and we have some companies in his portfolio that we think are going to do really well in the next 10 to 15 years. Because when he gets to 18, that account is his. But when he gets to maybe 10, 11, I'll start talking to him about the type of companies, see what he likes, try to invest according to what he likes, and so on. Right? I really lost my train of thought with all of this. Sorry about that, guys. So I was talking about what? Yes, thank you. All right. So I was gonna say I need to wrap this up before um, things get worse. Now, before I wrap it up, though, I have to um, do the usual and talk about um, this is something that I want to share about before I forget. Right. So we do have our upcoming conference that I will say that's coming up next week. And now I went through the pitches tonight. We got 38 pitches. I've narrowed it down to 18. Now I have to narrow down that 18 to 10 and then that 10 to 5, all before tomorrow morning, and announce to the finalists that they've been shortlisted. And then we're going to have a training session with them to kind of help them to pitch for next week. And then they're going to pitch and they'll have the chance to win, cash prize, mentorship, etc. So I'm really looking forward to this conference next week. I went to the location today, worked out some of the logistics. Tickets are selling. The VIP tickets, I think, may sell out before this weekend. I'm not sure yet. I have to check the numbers, but there's still some VIP tickets that are available. There's um, like 100 plus of the general admission tickets available that you can still get, because the reason why we chose Corley Auditorium is that it can accommodate 400 people, so it can accommodate a lot of people, right? And we also have the online option. So for those of you who are watching from overseas, which I know some of you are, you can purchase online. And we do have a special for challenge members. So challenge members, check out the post that we have in the challenge. You can get your special pricing on tickets there. But for those who submit pitches, you're gonna hear from us tomorrow, definitely, right? So I'd love to see you all there, and especially for the business bingo on night one, where we'll get to talk and kind of exchange stories, etc. Right? So I'll say this: if I see any of you at the business bingo, then I'll tell you how many shares of TransJamaica I'm holding. Right? I can give you that. All right. So thesis now for TransJamaica. So my thesis before this offer for sale, and let me actually just do this, right? So it ended today at 383. Now it's interesting to see the trading, because usually for when they pay a dividend, the price usually runs up after the announcement, um, corrects slightly close to the dividend date, and then usually goes back up. And we've seen a sort of up and down for it for multiple reasons, and that's part of actually why, and we're seeing a lot of large transactions, right? So we saw this $104 million trade, and then I think we also have a director who today it was shown that they bought 65 million shares on March 28th, right? So we're seeing directors buy, which is always a bullish sign, right? And it's the same day. So I don't know if it's, I'm gonna assume it's included in the 104 here. I'm not sure, right? It could be separate or it could be included. I'm not sure yet, but we saw 104 for this day. So I'm gonna assume that it's included here. But what I would say is that now the whole premise behind the offer for sale, and I talked about it, where this this presents an opportunity, I think, for TransJamaica. Well, it did present an opportunity for 22,000 persons to apply, or 22,000 accounts, because I applied with half of my accounts, which is 4 accounts. So I assume, of course, even from that 22,000, maybe it's not 22,000 people, but 22,000 accounts. And so maybe like 18, 19,000 people, because not many people have multiple accounts, but or most persons may only fund one account. But for them to make the shares available, I thought about, what that would look like in terms of the take up, right? Because we saw other offers and the capital that they were able to raise, and what that meant for them. Of course, with TransJamaica having such great sentiment in the marketplace, I wasn't worried. Now, I did think that with just the window that they had, the timing that they had, that maybe not necessarily that it wouldn't be oversubscribed or closed, but I wanted to see, my goal was to see at least 25 to 50% oversubscription, which they were able to meet. I think they did 33% oversubscribed. So that was good to see. But the basis of allotment was very interesting for me, because the basis of allotment. So I'm getting into the meat of what I'm saying now, right? Sorry it took so long. The meat of what I'm saying is the basis of allotment said to me that there were a lot of persons to get all of their shares, right? And because a lot of persons get all of their shares, there are some persons who may be very interested in short term. So I don't necessarily mind persons investing for short term. That was never an issue for me. But I look at it this way, because let's say that you have you got the 2.7 million shares, and you got that at 360. So you'd have spent $9 million to get shares. Now, I do believe that anybody who purchases millions of shares is likely not doing it short term. That I said likely. It's not guaranteed, of course, because I do know some persons who invest for the short term, and they do have a good amount of capital. Because I do remember a friend of mine, for example, purchased like $8 million of Usinko at one point. Held it for a little bit, sold at I think 50% profit at the time. I don't remember. This was years ago. But I do know persons who will invest, and the minimum they would buy is like 1 million shares, 2 million shares, etc. And so for them, they don't necessarily hold it short term, but they do have a particular price point that they go for. And so I do know persons who do that, but I'm assuming that most persons who apply for maybe 500,000 shares or more are likely going to be holding it medium term, right? Now, for those who purchase maybe less, because there are some persons who are quite content with 10% or 20%, and they're fine, because in their minds they're thinking, hey, I get this 20% in a couple of weeks or months, or I bought it for 3.6, it's trading at $4. I can just take profit and wait for the price to go down, right? Because there's this prevailing theory that after the dividend is due, the price will go down, right? A lot of persons are of that impression. And I mean, of course, the data does support that, right? So the data says that usually after the dividend is is due, meaning the X date, it trades down a little bit, at least for a couple of days. Now, in this case, I am expecting that since the dividend will be paid and there's not much else to expect, then it will mean a sort of maybe depressed pricing for a couple of months unless something is announced or there's something that makes investors eager to purchase, right? Because we'll see what happens when the refunds are allocated, but you have to remember, not many refunds are going to persons below 2.7 million shares. So those persons who maybe have the larger capital, because as you see, you needed 10 million to purchase 2.7 million shares. So persons with that 10 million or higher, we don't know if they'll use that money to do something else, right? So in terms of my thesis for it, it has changed in the sense that before the offer for sale, I was expecting that even after last year when it went to that 498, I was actually expecting somewhat of a correction. That's why I would have sold at 480. And I was expecting it to correct to maybe about $4, and then I was actually hoping that around this time would have been higher in price. So that impacts my personal timeline, right? And I am looking now at it as if it is that there are persons who, because I'm waiting to see, right? I'd say the month after the dividend is paid will tell me a whole lot more, right? So for right now, the thesis is that everything is gonna be sort of pivotal around Thursday, right? Because Thursday is the X date. And so for those who don't understand how that works, because I saw a few persons asking about it. So how it works is that once you are a shareholder on the 3rd, then you get the dividend. So what normally happens on the X date is that persons have the ability, since they started the day as shareholders, they're able to sell their shares and still benefit from the dividends. That's pretty much my point here, Shells. Shells summed it up for me in one sentence. The number of persons that have shares now and the almost, I wouldn't say 100% predictability, but that now, because before it was always persons who are like, you know, I want shares, maybe I'll buy when it gets to a certain price. Most of those persons are satisfied, right? Meaning they probably have more than they thought they would have, because some persons would have applied for a large amount of shares and probably got more than what they thought they were going to get, right? I know certainly I have more than my target units now because I applied for more because I thought I'd get maybe 40, 50% of what I applied for. Now, I got all of what I applied for, which I don't mind, honestly. But what it says to me is that based on how it is trading now, it could be that if I simply would have waited, maybe I would get it for an even better price than the offer for sale. So I'm also wondering if there's this this psychological thing that happens when an offer sets a price, right? Persons don't fully think about it or appreciate it. When a price is set, it's almost like that price becomes the starting point for a lot of people, right? Which is why I think the price has to be set so strategically, because when it was trading at, I think, 420, the offer for sale came out at 360 and it went down to 370, right? And so this I think the reset price for a lot of people is going to be 360. So it's almost like 360 is going to be treated like the IPO price for a lot of people. And because of that, that's going to be sort of the gauge, right? So if it goes below, persons are going to measure it to to 360. If it goes above, persons are going to be referencing 360 because maybe a chunk of new shareholders, that is their starting price. And so persons may have the opportunity to settle for a certain amount of upside based on the fact that they got all these shares at a flat fee of the IPO, not the IPO, the offer price. And so they have the flexibility to not even worry about fees unless they're selling, right? Hopefully all of that made sense. But the last thing that I'll say here before I leave it open for any questions is that my take is that persons are going to, I think the institutions who purchased will be more than happy to take more shares if it is that the price goes below 360, right? Because you have to think about the 3 billion. 3 billion will be refunded to, I'm assuming, pension funds or large corporations or maybe existing shareholders. So that 3 billion needs to go somewhere, right? And until other offers come out that are as attractive, the 3 billion may find its way back to TransJamaica, but maybe persons are waiting for like a street for like a strategic price, because I'm assuming those who would have applied might be getting their refunds this week, right? So that is my take. I know I'm not seeing many questions. Maybe I'm being clear, but that's kind of what I'm thinking will happen. And so I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens now. It will, when I purchased in the offer, I looked at shifting away all of my dividend stocks or dividend capital or potential to TransJamaica. Now, for now, Dolphin Cove is still a dividend stock for me, but they have not paid a dividend, I think, since June of last year. And so I am waiting for the report, the audited report, which has not come out as yet. I think it's further delayed. And so, but for the good thing about Dolphin Cove for me that I don't remember if I shared here, because their dividend was so attractive, because I've been holding Dolphin Cove for a while. I've gotten so much back in dividends already that I've made back most of my capital already, right? So that's why I'm not necessarily worried about any short-term downside. And if I see the report and I see signs that they can pay a dividend in the next 12 months, I'm willing to take a lower price to get that higher yield and then see, right? So that may be a sort of waiting game similar to Jamaica Broilers, right? So hopefully that all makes sense here. I'm seeing my shares certainly in, well, I use JTrader, right? I do have shares over Moneyline as well, but that was from like when it was in the $2 range. I bought those and have not sold them, don't intend to sell them, and so there's that. All right, I'll take any questions for the next probably 5 minutes, then we can probably end the stream. Hopefully this made sense to everybody. I think the baby distracted me, threw me off a little bit, but I do want to mention that we do have also, since I have you guys here, there is, let me find it. We do have a sale going on until the 3rd for let me find it here. Yeah. So I wanted to share this as well with everybody. So hopefully you can see it. So we have a flash sale happening in the community group right now. This is a free community where you get 20% off the investment challenge for the next 3 months. So you get 20% off each month for 3 months. The sale ends on Thursday. right? So you can access the code. I won't share the code here. It's for community members only. So once you join, you get access to it. You can sign up to the challenge for 3 months, see what it's like, see if you get value from what we're teaching. I do believe that it's extremely valuable, and I do like some of the testimonials that we've been getting. That I feel like sharing one of them. So bear with me for a minute here. Let me share this. Um, so Candice here says that she joined the challenge in November 2024, and it's an investment she's grateful that she made. She has not only seen improvements in knowledge of investing, but now she's budgeting. She wasn't before. She's handling her home affairs better, her other businesses better. I didn't know you had businesses. That's awesome. It's more organized, more efficient, and seeing more realistic returns. She's scaled down from having 8 stocks to 3 stocks and rebalancing as is necessary. So she's making better financial decisions and her confidence has increased, making a commitment and honoring it through normalizing investing regularly. So I have a challenge where I say to them, invest every month, right? So she's been doing that, and I'm learning life skills, which is more than I anticipated. So she's grateful for how myself and Rennie are so patient and truly interested in helping us and not making it about them. It's very easy to learn from our teachings, and she appreciates it. She would strongly recommend this challenge to anyone who is serious about exponential growth in building true wealth. So she's super excited and she commends us for doing a great work, right? So thank you so much for this testimony. I think there's one more. So Tony, I think I saw Tony in the chat earlier. So prior to Learn Grow Investors was an era that was pretty much a whole other language that just didn't make sense. However, you just need one meeting with Jermaine to realize that he can teach anyone. I don't know about that, but I can teach most people. Given how easily the cost of the investment challenge can be spent on things that provide me no return, I decided it was worth a try. And honestly, I figured out, given my limited time and perception of my ability to understand, I probably wouldn't have lasted more than a month. So I actually had this case where one person signed up during Black Friday, which we did a 3 month sale. They canceled their subscription in January because I think they figured that they wouldn't be learning anything new. Decided to come back in, signed up for the whole year, and they've been, doing really well since. So thank you, Tony and Candice, for this feedback here. But I mean, that's just, I think, what the challenge is for, right? So it helps you to understand how to invest according to what you're looking to accomplish. So, for example, when we went through what we did on Saturday night, it allowed persons, I think, to really see how I go about making an investment decision, because I showed them essentially why I was bullish on a company like TransJamaica, for example, 3 years ago. I showed the process by which I made that decision, right? So I went through 6 steps. The 6 steps are what I look for every time I'm making a major investment decision. So if I'm spending more than $500,000 on an investment, I'm going through those steps. Once I do it, I'm usually confident that I can put anything above that, and I'm waiting for what I'm expecting to come to pass. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, I will lose some money too. But I've been right more than I've been wrong. And so I'm certainly able to benefit from that. So that's what I pretty much teach. I don't need to tell anybody what to buy. I think that's the beauty about the challenge. So I don't need to say buy this stock or the next, because I'm teaching, persons how to make that decision for themselves. I may help persons to categorize certain stocks. So one of the things, for example, persons will ask me, what is a growth stock, or what is a value stock, what is a dividend stock? And I'll say to them, explain it so that they can understand. Or if they're investing for dividends, getting, a 2% yield or a 1% yield is not a solid dividend. That doesn't make sense. So I'll show them how to calculate the dividend yield and then choose a baseline to work with that usually helps them to realize more income. And especially for my coaching clients, I've seen just a change in how they invest and so on. So it's awesome. And then especially since now I'm preparing to become a financial advisor, I think once I am finally an advisor, not there yet, but I'm going through the requirements now. Once I become an advisor, then I can be a little bit more direct in terms of what I say. So when I become a financial advisor, of course, you guys will all know about it because I'll be hoping to work with some of you, and then I'll just see how things will change because I'm not sure yet. But at the very least, I can start doing more direct reviews where I can tell you what my recommendation is for a company after I've done the review and things like that, right? Um, so are there any questions? That was NB League. You're not seeing your shares you ordered through JMMB. I didn't use JMMB. I used NCB and Sagicor for my orders, and I saw the shares since Friday. So I'm not sure. I think I saw persons say though that they see it on JMMB now. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Yeah, so Humble Boss is saying he got his from JMMB. Took profit in the quarter, just holding some cash and looking for opportunities now. So I mean, there will be some opportunities coming up certainly within the next 2 months. And that's the thing, right? Because and that's why I'm looking to see how it will trade. Because if there's this big piece that I didn't mention, and this is probably the last thing I'll say. Now, we all know, hopefully all of you do by now, that when there is an offer out, there's typically a sell-off, right? And now most persons' capital, investing capital, is in TransJamaica. So if an offer comes out tomorrow or next week and persons are attracted to it, you're gonna again the price may find itself down for persons to take advantage of that offer. Now that the price won't recover, but if it's a compounding thing, we may very well see um, price movements lower than we've seen in a while, right? So um, thanks. Is this Taverny? Let me know if that's correct. But all right, thanks guys for being here. This is a very late stream. I appreciate all of you. And did I share the very bullish thing that I saw? Did I share that? I mean, did I mention this one, right? Director purchasing 65 million shares. Yes, I did. I did. So, Shells, let me check that out. Where is your question? Okay. How would someone do a private sell by? Okay. So my knowledge of it, because I've tried to tried to do it before. When I've asked about it, I was told simply it depends on how much you're buying. So what I would do based on the relationship I have with my advisor, I would simply say to my advisor, hey, I have let's say I have $20 million and I want to buy some TransJamaica shares. I have 20 million. Can you help me to find a buyer for it? So the broker can do it. You can also speak to the company. I've done that as well, where I'll speak to the CEO or a member of the board because usually they know the larger shareholders, right? Because if you're looking to buy a private trade, it has to be something meaningful. Otherwise, like, what's the point? You can just get that from the queue. So, if you go to an AGM, you'll meet some of the larger shareholders there, and you can make an arrangement. Like, I went to this AGM once and saw a shareholder that had like a ridiculous amount of shares in a particular company, And I was like, I'm sitting beside a billionaire, right? Or at least 100 millionaire. And the person was just all casual, low key, nice to meet you, so on and so forth. And so you can speak to somebody like that and say, well, I want to buy 20 million shares. Because sometimes it's not that they're not bullish on the company, but they could use the liquidity, especially if they have millions of shares and it's not always easy to sell those shares. You have to negotiate the price. So you may say, well, shares are trading for $4. Can I buy 20 million shares at 390, or something like that? Or finally, so I said advisor or broker, company. Um, yeah, those are the two options, I think, right? That's at least the way that I've gone about it. I have spoken to the CEO directly and say, hey, I'd like to buy some shares. And if you have the buyer already, you can just speak to the broker, and they will try to facilitate it. But you could always put it through the queue depending on the amount for the order, because you can do, for example, what's the order type? Is it all or none? You could do an all or none order, for example, shells. So if you want to sell me 10 million shares of TransJamaica, we agree to a price. I fund my account, you put up the shares for sale, set the order as all or none, and I can just place my order at the same time for that particular price that we have agreed. And so because you set yours for all or none, I set my order for the same quantity and price, then that can work. But the broker may be the better person to do that trade for you, just in case somebody may have the right order type and grab a few shares, right? um, Hopefully that answers your question. So if you have a buyer, you can speak to your advisor first, and then they will guide you, right? Hey Tony, and it's late. It's your bedtime. It's your bedtime. I shall be taking advantage of the price dips. This is early. I love the street time. Any later, and I will miss it. Yeah. So what I'm starting to do, and this is something I'm testing, by the way. Um, Taking stock is on Tuesdays, and so Kalila would normally have, let's say, 300, 400, 500 people on her live on Tuesdays. And so I'm starting to see if Tuesday is also a good day to stream, so that since persons may be online on YouTube already, I schedule my live, maybe some of those persons just come over. I'm trying that to see if it works. I think I did it last week, and so I'm doing it again this week. I'll do it 2 more weeks and see how that works out. But um, just so that it would make it a little easier, I think, to reach more persons. But just a theory that I'm testing out, to see how that goes, right? Yeah, so I would speak to your advisor. If you don't have anybody to talk to, let me know. Just send me a DM and I can help you out. By the way, everyone, if you've been sending me DMs on social media, I'm off of Lent. I'm off of social media for Lent until next week because of the conference, right? So it's earlier than I would have liked to be off, but usually this time per year, I take a break from social media to kind of reset and focus on just kind of seeing what the Lord wants me to focus on this season, spend time in prayer, fasting, and so on. Um, so how does a person transfer the shares to you who buys? Well, it depends. If you put the order through the queue, that's easy. If it is so, remember, everything goes through JCSD accounts. So I would imagine that you can pretty much, depending on the volume, right? And David Rose can probably confirm this, but um, you can essentially write. So let's say the director who purchased 65 million shares. That's a very large transaction, right? That's almost $200 million. They could essentially write to their broker, who will then make the arrangements with JCSD to have the shares transferred. So once they provide confirmation of payment, that's confirmed on the seller side, seller can now say, okay, please initiate this transfer from JCSD to that person's account, because all of this is, it's, remember, the JCSD account is how things are managed. Now this is my assumption of how it would work. Somebody with more intimate knowledge can probably say I'm right or wrong, but that's how I understand it, based on the fact that I've transferred shares. Remember, I think I shared there before SSL crashed, I had shares there, and I transferred those shares from my account there over to GK Capital, and that took maybe about 2 weeks, right? Because I wasn't happy with the service with SSL, decided to close my account there. So I asked them to transfer the shares. I had to put my JCSD number. Told them that I wanted to transfer. My name had to be on both accounts. I told the broker that it's coming in, so I filled out the form, and then it was done, right? So, okay, you just answered the question, bro. Yeah, man. So that's what your broker is for. That's what your broker is for. All right. NB, didn't expect you after taking stock. I signed off, and sometime later I saw you were live. Yes. Because I'll be doing, I'll be launching a new community this weekend, right? So we have created a brand new community. I won't give away the details, but we've created a brand new community, and so I'll be launching it this Saturday. So I'll be doing, what would I say, an all night and all evening live stream from about 6 or 7 p.m. on Saturday to maybe about midnight. So you can look out for that live stream. And we'll be launching the community, doing giveaways, having some guest speakers coming on. And I'm very excited about it. So we're planning to launch 2 communities this year. One is going to be this weekend. Another is a Bible study community that we're launching. We're going to be forming a community that's specifically talking about Bible-based investing, Bible-based money management. Strategies are things that I've learned from the Bible that has helped me with how I invest. And that one will be launched about June, July. I'm very excited about that one, because I'm thinking it may be, because I mean, Christians are not the best money managers at times. So I wanted to create something specifically, because this community, this platform is not specific to Christian-based content. Everybody knows I'm a Christian, of course, but I wanted something targeted now where I could like open the Bible, teach from it, and it's not, some persons are like, what you doing, and that kind of stuff. So that community is going to be launched later this year. The wait list is coming out soon. It is going to be a paid community, but it's not going to be expensive, right? Because it's going to be literally, so I'm writing a book now. We'll be teaching from the book and from the Bible, right? So we'll do like a weekly Bible study, money management, personal finance, investing from the Bible, and then we can host like different meetups and stuff like that. The community that's launching this weekend will actually be a regional community. So persons who are overseas, you're more than welcome to join. And that one is gonna have, well, just join on Saturday and you see that, right? Yeah. Yes, I'm gonna be live for a couple of hours. It's gonna be something that we haven't done before, because it's kind of like it's something different. So I'll say check it out. Check it out. I mean, I have the same 24 hours as everybody else. Shells. We have the same time. I do have more time than you, but Rainy and I are a team. We support each other. Like I'm doing the stream. She came for the baby, and so we try our best to be supportive in for each other. It's good when there is that. It makes everything easier, and I think this is the most available I've been for my family, so I'm happy about that too. So I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything. What I am sacrificing is my basketball time. So I've had to give up a lot of basketball, but the Warriors not looking promising this season at all. Um, but I think Steph scored 8 threes before halftime tonight. So I'm going to look at the recap for that game. Hopefully he beat his record by now. Maybe he scored, 23s tonight, and then it's an all-time record. I'd certainly watch that entire game again. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks for your attention. And please do join the community. Take advantage of the flash sale. Take advantage of the challenge. And so, yeah, I think that's it. No, Shells. I've not seen. Well, Jimmy's there to be paid, right? So Jimmy got his money. He's good, but the playoffs is where we'll see that return, right? We're paying him $54 million a year, right? That's a heavy spend. We're already the highest payroll team in the NBA. I think 400 million that we paid last year in salaries and taxes and penalties. And so Jimmy better get us through at least one playoff series. But depending on our seeding, if we face like Denver in the first round or the Lakers in the first round, we don't have size, right? So that's going to be a problem. I'd rather we face like the Grizzlies. I don't want to face OKC either. So it's sticky. Well, of course we won tonight. Yeah, right. So, all right. Let me check. So we actually have. I did not share this with you guys. Let me share this quickly. All right, you guys may find this interesting. We have a LGI sports community. Some of you might not have known that. So we have a community. We talk about basketball, Premier League, Formula One, Olympics when that came about. So if you're a fan of Formula One, we have that Formula One group. If you like Premier League, you can come and talk about that. Shout out to Nathan, who does most of the posting, right? So this is how I keep touch on all the basketball stuff, right? And then, so of course, when the playoff starts, it gets pretty crazy. Of course, we do have the LGI group that we're not accepting people in for Telegram anymore. Most of you know about the SOTR group, of course. And then you have the Jamaican investor who has his Telegram group as well. And I have some other groups that I don't want you to see. So I'll leave that for now. All right. Yes, absolutely. We'll be live on YouTube. Yeah. It's gonna be YouTube, but join from the, because I would do it in the community, but there's a max number of persons that will be able to join, because a community live platform only accommodates 200 people, and I don't know how many of you will be available, so I don't want to do it in the community to limit that. So okay, I see some questions in the community groups. I'll go over there, answer them, and then no, Shell, so it's a different group altogether. The sports group, look for LGI Sports. It's different from the Telegram community for investment. I have like 4 Telegram groups. So I also have the Telegram news feed. All right. So I have to run. I have to go and relieve Renee. So take care, guys. I'll see you in the next video.
Learning is the key to successful investing. And who doesn't want to invest in some way?
Here at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest, we focus on financial education, all with the aim of sharing our knowledge on personal finance, investing, and building wealth. We do this on the foundation of our faith in God.
If a more holistic approach is what you need, check out our Grow Faith-based financial coaching program.
Find out more about us at learngrowinvestclub.com
and follow us on all social media platforms at L.E.A.R.N Grow Invest.